Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're talking about AI and art. There's been a lot of conversation about AI in recent months, and it feels a bit like all of us are kind of grappling with this technology, wondering how and where it fits into place in our society. I'm well aware that apocalyptic predictions of new technologies rarely pan out. It was thought that photography would destroy painting, for example. But as we all now know, if anything, photography's displacement of the representational function of painting freed up painting to expand as a medium and led to the birth of Impressionism, Expressionism, and everything that followed. Still, I've been giving AI a great deal of thought, and I think it's different from past technologies. I'm not philosophically opposed to AI being used in ethical ways, and I think there are going to be applications for AI that are both ethical and helpful. But today, I want to talk about one area in which I think AI is incapable of being either ethical or helpful, and that's art. I believe that art created with the help of artificial intelligence offers nothing of value to us, and we as the art-going public should refuse to support it. And I want to be very clear here about what I'm referring to when I talk about AI art. I'm specifically speaking about images created by large language artificial intelligence models like ChatGPT or Sora 2. These artificial intelligence platforms create images by referencing a massive data set of recorded artwork, analyzing those works, and then generating a new image that follows the aesthetics it learned from its analysis. And that kind of leads me into the first reason why I think we shouldn't support AI art. AI image generation relies on appropriating the work of actual human artists without giving them recognition, credit, or compensation. To some extent, every artist analyzes the work of other artists and uses the aesthetics they recognize when creating their own work. Pablo Picasso, Edward Manet, and Francis Bacon all made works that riffed on paintings by Diego Velázquez. But I think there's a huge difference between one individual artist consciously reinterpreting or paying homage to the work of another, and an algorithm hoovering up work by thousands or millions of artists to produce an image that mimics the collected aesthetics of those artists. And a significant part of that difference comes down to compensation. Velázquez was long dead before Picasso, Manet, or Bacon could even think of compensating him. But I see a huge difference between a single artist commenting on the work of another and a massive corporation running algorithms that depend upon the work of millions, many of whom may still be alive and in need of fair compensation for their work. There's perhaps a corollary to this argument that we ought to question whether we want to enrich AI companies at all, when some, like Palantir, have collaborated with ICE roundups of migrants. My second argument would be that AI is simply not capable of generating new ideas. Recently, Take-Two Interactive CEO Strauss Zelnick said that although he embraces AI, the software is designed to be backwards-looking. AI references datasets of things that have already been created, so it is by definition always looking backwards at work that has already been done. To return to Picasso, his work in Cubism relied heavily upon experiments conducted by Cezanne. You can check out my Cubism video for more details on how that style developed. But ultimately, Picasso and his colleague Georges Braque took Cezanne's ideas and went into totally new territory, developing a novel grammar of painting that was almost inconceivable for the medium's millennia-long history. Cubism completely transformed all the painting that came after it, and it would have been totally inconceivable if Picasso and Braque had been solely focused on the artwork that came before them, rather than seeking out a new solution to painting's long-standing problem of perspective. Even more dramatic is the case of Hilma af Klint and Vasily Kandinsky, two artists who pioneered abstract painting, a style that was totally unprecedented in the visual arts prior to their work. Looking at a data set of paintings created prior to the turn of the 20th century, AI would never have been able to conceive of an image that represented its subject through interlocked flat squares, much less of an image that didn't represent any recognizable subject at all. To allow AI to dominate art is to deprive ourselves of the artistic vision of the future. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, no matter how AI develops, it can never replicate the human experience at the core of artistic creation. There's an argument out there that AI is simply another tool of art making, and the human who prompts the AI still brings their experience and humanity to creating the image. Those who agree with that line of thinking might compare AI art to other technologically dependent mediums like digital art or photography. I think animation is an excellent example of a valuable digital art form. Although it's true that animators rely heavily on computer programs, those programs don't actually do the work of image creation for them. Animators have to be able to draft their characters themselves, often using a stylus on the screen in the same way that a traditional artist might sketch on paper. Animation uses some new technologies, but at its core is a real human drawing. Photography is perhaps a more interesting counterpoint to AI. Remember, as I said in the beginning, when photography was invented, many worried that it would bring an end to painting. Images could be created with the press of a button, requiring nothing like the amount of time it takes to make a single drawing, much less to master the draftsmanship required to make a great drawing. But still, I think the difference between photography and AI is illustrative of why AI is not just another tool in art making. If photography is perhaps less technically difficult than drawing or painting, it's still a medium that requires a great deal of technical expertise. The photographer has to know their camera, know what lens to use, what aperture, what kind of lighting. Anyone can take a photo, and digital cameras have certainly made it easier. But still, the great photographers of today and the past don't simply rely on their cameras. They don't snap the button and expect a perfect photo. They work to achieve technical mastery of the camera, learn and apply the rules of composition, and often even develop their own photos so that they're able to have control over all aspects of the process. Photographers do the work required to know their tools so that their tools are perfectly responsive to them. AI outsources that technical mastery to the machine itself. Anyone can open an AI program and start typing in prompts. If one is unsatisfied with the AI image, they just ask the machine to change it. Also, because the AI program handles all the technical aspects of image creation, there's no room for the happy accidents that sometimes occur when humans are involved. AI allows the machine to do the work, not the artist. Consider, for example, Man Ray's famous solarization photographs. While Man Ray was developing photos one day, his partner Lee Miller flipped on the light switch briefly. At first, Man Ray was alarmed, worried that his photo prints would be damaged by the light, but he found that the damage amounted to a striking halo-like light around his subjects, almost as though their images were melting at the edges. The technical mistake of introducing a flash of light to undeveloped prints actually resulted in unique and aesthetically compelling images. AI offers no such opportunities. And that's only the technical aspects of photography. The far greater work lies in doing the research and traveling to go someplace where there's an interesting subject to photograph. And crucially, having the awareness and the eye required to press the camera button at just the right moment. Henri Cartier-Bresson termed this the decisive moment, that exact fraction of a second when the composition of a photo perfectly aligns with the ideas behind it. For me, the greatest example is Dorothea Lange's Migrant Mother. Lange had the awareness and sensitivity required to see in the uncertain gaze of this mother the uncertainty of an entire nation enduring the twinned catastrophes of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. Perhaps we all sense that it takes a human heart to be aware of and respond to moments like this. But I would add that even when one is using a camera, creating an image this powerful is difficult. There are many ways an artist can experience the difficulties of their art. Whether in the long hours required to achieve technical mastery, the burden of bearing witness to human suffering, or the translation of one's own suffering into a work of the most profound beauty. Making great art has always been famously difficult. In his first book, Permanent Red, critic John Berger comments at length about the difficulties of making art, beginning with a statement by painter Jean-Simeon Chardin that anyone who has not experienced the difficulties of their art does nothing of value. I believe this is because it is in the artist's endurance of those creative difficulties that we truly see their heart. AI is not just a tool for artists, it's a machine that allows one to avoid the difficult work required to make a truly compelling image. In bypassing creative difficulties, I would argue that the AI artist bypasses the opportunity to truly show their heart in their work. And in my opinion, the result of using AI to bypass difficulties and borrow from the work of others isn't art. It's slop. Now, I think it's important to say that I don't have all the answers. As I said at the beginning, this is still a new technology, and we're all still learning how and where it can be safely applied. And again, I think it's important to say that outside of art creation, I think there may be some safe and helpful applications for AI. Maybe you can think of some ways that AI could be helpful, or maybe you've already experienced them. Maybe you think some uses of AI in art creation are valid and others aren't. Or maybe you think I'm entirely wrong, and AI art is just as valid as any other art form. Whether you agree or disagree, I do genuinely appreciate you hearing me out on this. But if, like me, you believe that valuable art comes from real human artists, there's one really simple thing you can do, and that's to support those real human artists however you can. I think we all need great art to make life worth living. And the artists behind that work need your support, now more than ever. Thanks so much for watching this one. I know it was a bit longer than usual. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something new. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.